My name is Jack Turner. I've been farming the red earth of Australia all my life. I've known these lands, this wind, this warm eucalyptus scent since I was a child. But no night had ever begun as quietly as that one, until the forest broke the silence with a single, trembling cry. I know the sound of a koala, but there was a strange pain in that sound. The moment I stepped outside, I smelled something burning in the air. The wind was blowing dry brush, and the night sky was cut by a faint orange glow. I grabbed my flashlight and started walking. Then a light appeared beyond the horizon, a thin line of fire. The forest was burning. When that scream rose again, I sped up, then started running. The ground was hot, and the dry branches crunching under my feet signaled the fire was approaching. The intensity of the fire was increasing. Orange flames were devouring the bushes, and smoke rose into the sky like a heavy curtain. The dry grass on the ground caused the fire to spread rapidly. Every minute that passed made it harder to find him. A small koala, stuck halfway up an eucalyptus tree, clung to a branch, exhausted from the heat and smoke. Its arms hung limply down, its eyes reddened by the smoke. I didn't hesitate for a second. I ran down. The flames were closing in from the sides, the hot wind burning my face. Flames engulfed everything. He struggled helplessly to reach the coal. The smoke grew thicker and thicker, making it almost impossible to breathe. That little body was right before my eyes. The koala looked at me. There was more exhaustion than fear in its eyes. "It's okay, little friend. I'm here," I said to myself. "I'll get you out of here. Trust me." When I reached the branch, the koala was almost unconscious. Its fur, scorched by the heat, was motionless, and its breath was only evident by a slight tremor in its chest. I wrapped it in my shirt and pressed its body against my chest. Its tiny claws seemed to be clinging to my t-shirt with its last ounce of strength. At that very moment, a dry eucalyptus trunk on the right side of the tree cracked with a deep groan. Then it shattered with a huge explosion, and fiery flames swept over us like a wall. The heat hit my face so hard that my eyes instantly filled with tears. There wasn't even an inch left to retreat. The branches above were burning, the bushes below were catching fire. We had only one escape route, the dry riverbed below. I clutched the koala tightly, held my breath, and let myself fall into the void. The fall was short but hard. A sharp pain shot through my knees, but I managed to stay on my feet. The koala stirred slightly against my chest. It was a very faint movement, but it felt like the greatest hope in the world to me. I knelt down, dipped my hand into the cool hollow of the dry riverbed. I carefully gathered the thin pool of water in my hands and slowly extended it to the mouth of the exhausted koala, leaning against my chest. Its small head trembled as it drank the water, the dullness in its eyes giving way to a faint glimmer of life. Her pupils were tiny but lively, a fleeting glance, a glance that said, "I'm here." Her seeing me, her weak gasp, made me forget all the weariness of the world. I pressed the koala tighter to my chest and started running along the dry riverbed, because the flames had suddenly begun spreading over the hill toward us. As the wind shifted direction, hot air hissing like a whistle from every crack in the forest. As the fire climbed upward, the riverbed had become the only natural corridor where the flames were weakest. With smoke collapsing like a wall among the bushes, this narrow gully was the only breathable path. With every step, the ground grew hotter, sparks flying at shoulder height. The only way to survive was to follow this narrow path to the end. There was no other way out. After a while, a distant rumbling sound came. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then I realized it was the sound of an engine. Two powerful headlights appeared through the smoke. The rescue team. They jumped down and ran towards me. When they saw the koala wrapped around my chest, the fear on their faces quickly gave way to determination. They quickly opened the vet's bag. One knelt beside the koala, carefully examining its small body, taking care not to damage its fur. The other checked its pulse with their fingertips, trying to gauge how weak its breathing was. They watched the movement of its ribs with their fingers, assessing how badly it had been affected by the smoke. They took me by the arm and helped me to my feet. As I was being taken to the hospital, I turned my head back. They were carrying me safely. I felt a heavy weariness inside, but also an indescribable sense of relief. 3 months later, when my wounds had completely healed and my breathing returned to normal, I returned to see the koala with an unrelenting curiosity inside me. That morning, the sun was just rising. The golden hues stretching across the horizon shimmered on the eucalyptus leaves. the light flickering with the gentle touch of the wind. When I entered the rehabilitation center, there was intense activity in the large courtyard. Some of the animals rescued from the fire were resting in shaded areas. Some were being fed by the veterinary team, and others were being kept in special sections to regain their strength. When I entered the rehabilitation center, there was intense activity in the large courtyard. Some of the animals rescued from the fire were resting in shaded areas. Some were being fed by the veterinary team, and others were being kept in special sections to regain their strength. The staff worked diligently, caring for each animal as if they were their own children. The quiet atmosphere of healing inside strangely lightened one's heart. The attendant who greeted me smiled. "I suppose you've come to see him," he said, and led me into a large outdoor garden. The attendant who greeted me smiled. "I suppose you've come to see him," he said, leading me into a large outdoor garden. In the middle of the garden stood a broad eucalyptus tree. Its fresh leaves filtered the sunlight, creating a soft shade. When I turned my gaze to the tree, I saw it. The little koala was sitting on a branch. Its fur was now fluffy, shiny, and healthy. Its tiny nose was sniffing the air, its eyes calmly scanning its surroundings. With every step, I remembered how helpless he was in the fire that night, and something inside me melted away once more. When it finally came up to me, it lifted its little paw and touched my hand. At that moment, the struggle we had fought 3 months ago amid the smoke returned for an instant. The lightness of that little paw touching my palm, it was like a gratitude too deep for words. The koala lifted its head and looked into my eyes, then approached without hesitation. It clung to my shirt collar, wrapping its tiny arms around my neck. As its fur brushed my cheek, its warm breath seeped into me. This was no simple reflex. It was the silent, unbreakable bond between two souls who had survived the fire. The after effects had passed. When Koala was fully recovered, the rehabilitation center said he was ready to return to nature. That morning, we went with the center's team to a quiet valley untouched by the fire. A light breeze blew through the eucalyptus trees. It was as if the forest was calling him back. The moment I opened the box lid, the little koala poked its head out, sniffed the surroundings, then turned its eyes to me. That look was like a brief, silent thank you. Then he threw his body out and climbed the nearest eucalyptus tree. His claws dug into the bark. His feathers glistened in the sunlight. He perched on a branch and looked back again. This time there was no trace of the darkness of fire in his eyes. Instead, there was the quiet but powerful spark of freedom of a creature returned to its own land. This time there was freedom in their eyes, not fear. Then he disappeared, blending into the leaves. And in that moment I understood. That night I had saved his life. But today, he left behind a piece of me that keeps me alive. Have you ever formed a special bond with an animal? Share your story in the comments. See you in another story on Hidden Stories of the Wild. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Every week, we discover a new story hidden within nature together.